Here we go.
Hi, I'm Debbie Noriel Generu, and I've been born and raised in Petaluma. I moved away for a little bit, but I've been back since 2001, living in the house I grew up in on Fairgrounds Street, so really close to the Fairgrounds. And we have been coming to that property all my life. So it's very special. It's a lot of memories. This is my daughter.
I am Jennifer Generu Davis, and I have been involved in Petaluma my whole life, coming to visit my grandparents and spending time here. And my husband and I lived here for a while we were dating and first married, and we are now up in Lakeport, California, and have been there since 2003. But we come down and visit regularly and see Mom and Dad on Fairgrounds Street and attend family activities there, but also have a long history with the Fairgrounds.
Okay. A long history at the Fairgrounds. What does that mean to you when you say that?
First of all, it's a lot of love, not just for the Fairgrounds itself, but for the people that we've spent time with, sharing important events and time in our lives. I don't remember a time where we ever had a year where we weren't at the Fairgrounds for something. You know, whether it was the fair or fireworks or a family gathering, there's always been something that the Fairgrounds has been a part of our year every year. So that just, it's a lot of love, a lot of memories, people that aren't here anymore. You know, we can look at photos and there we are at the Fairgrounds with them. So it's home movies.
Home movies?
Home movies. Yeah, your squirrel feed is on a home movie somewhere.
Yeah, when I was growing up, we belonged to a hunting club, my parents and several other local families here in town. And once deer season was over, then they would go squirrel hunting. And we would have a big squirrel stew and polenta feed at what used to be a restaurant here. It's a building right behind the racetrack.
On the Fairgrounds?
On the Fairgrounds. And so we would have dinner, and then the folks would bring out a little vino and cards, and they'd play cards, and the kids would always run outside, and we had the whole Fairgrounds to play hide and seek in.
Wow.
Except the stables. We weren't allowed to go down that far, but we played hide and seek all over. So, a lot of fun.
That sounds like so much fun, so much laughter, parents having fun, kids having fun, a space for everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very nice. My phone is ringing.
I thought I turned it off.
It's
Oh,
mine.
Oh, it's yours?
Yeah.
All good. I see you guys holding some images. Would you want to share anything about the images or clippings?
We will.
Yeah. In 1969, my husband and I were married, and we were married uptown at a little church by the police department, but our wedding reception was in the same building where we used to have the squirrel feeds, the little restaurant. And so I don't have a picture showing the outside of the building, but this shows, I don't know if you can't see it, been there, but it's my husband and I and my mom and dad getting ready to cut the cake, and it's inside the restaurant area at the Fairgrounds. So that was, you know, and we're still married, so 53 years later, the building still means a lot to us.
Was that the same restaurant as the squirrel feed?
Same restaurant
Okay.
as the squirrel feed.
Okay.
And then that was in '69. In 1991, my husband and I were married in the garden area at the Fairgrounds. And at the time, those who were in charge hadn't any memory of anyone ever holding a wedding there. And we decided we wanted to do it anyway, and they let us go ahead and rent the garden area. So in August of 1991, we had our wedding in the garden area here at the Fairgrounds. And then we just went over to the Kenilworth building across the way and had our reception. And we are also still married. So we are about 31 years in. And so coming through at the fair and going through the garden area, we used the dressing room areas on the stage for getting ready for the wedding. So all of that holds a special place in my heart as I come back and see the area all dressed up. And I mean, it was really pretty, and the photographer didn't realize it at the time, but in the picture you can see our reflection in the pond, which was a really nice aspect to have.
Yeah.
It just made it all the more special.
And if you stand back and look at the pond, it's actually kind of heart-shaped. So it made a great spot for a wedding with very little decoration and just nice outdoor setting.
And blessing the relationships,
Yes.
2 solid relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we just, used the benches that were here on site to set up in the garden area, and our family came and sit among all of the plants, and, we dressed it up a little bit because the fair had been over for a while, so we added a couple of fresh plants, but it was really nice, and it gave us a nice outdoorsy feel right in the middle of town.
You mentioned that you were the first and possibly only to experience that on the fairgrounds. What do you think about maybe allowing that use in the future?
I think that would be a great use because, it doesn't take a lot of upkeep to just switch out your plants through the seasons. It does give a nice outdoor feel without having to find an outdoor space and have people traveling, especially with gas prices, to be outdoors. And it's a very, even being on Payran Street, it was very calm. We would hear the occasional car go by, but it was a great location, and it didn't take us a lot to make it feel special. We had a little arbor that we walked through as we came down the aisle. We put up, a few other decorations, but it really didn't take much to make it that special spot for our ceremony.
And
So-
also you've got the other buildings that you could have your reception in, at Herzog Hall, or I don't know what the name of the little one that we were married, reception was in, but you could just, everything could be right here on the grounds.
A very dynamic space.
Yeah, lots of parking, you don't have to travel anywhere, your guests can walk from one venue to the next.
Pretty much everybody knows where it is. So I think it's a great use of the property. And I would love to see more people get to have that experience that I had.
Yeah. You mentioned that it was quiet around that area, and I'm wondering now, like you're still on Payran Street, how has the environment changed surrounding the fairgrounds?
It's very busy.
Busy.
Yeah, lots. On our particular part of Payran Street, there's lots of traffic because it's a thoroughfare to like the police department, it's a thoroughfare to St. Vincent's High School, so we look forward to summer because you don't have twice a day when there's so much traffic you can't get out. 10 minutes to get out of your driveway. But other than that, I mean, it was a great place to grow up. I brought my girls into town all the time because when we moved, we were only in Monarch Park.
Okay.
So our summers were still here. We have a pool in the backyard, so we were always at Grandma's and Grandpa's, all summer long, and then the carnival would come, and we didn't have to find parking. We just walk over to the carnival or the
In
fair.
fact, we'll be doing that tomorrow.
Yes, we will.
And
But,
there's just so much. I mean, you said Grandpa brought you here for a circus when you were 5.
Yeah.
I remember you and Dad bringing us here to see the circus when I was probably about the same age.
probably. And what else? What else have we done? They had the skating rink when I was a kid. I went to skating lessons, and the main exhibit building was
Ice skating?
and then
Roller
Roller
skating.
skating, okay.
Yeah, it was
Same
50s,
thing.
early 60s.
Yeah, in the late 50s.
Ooh, tell me more about that. What was the vibe inside?
Very noisy. It was a cement floor.
Okay.
So, but they didn't have a disco ball, but they did play music, and they had regular skating lessons. They dance skating is what I went to, was dance skating lessons, and it was just a lot of fun. I mean, something you could go to. It was inexpensive, for the times. It was inexpensive, and it was just a nice place to send your kids. We could come here and feel safe. And I think I would still come here with my grandkids and feel totally safe on the fairgrounds. It's a non-threatening atmosphere. So, but we did skating.
You said there was a dance club?
When I was in high school, there was a club called the Woolly Bully, but there was a dance club called the Woolly Bully. And it
Woolly
was
Bully.
Woolly Bully, because that was a very popular song in the mid-60s. And I graduated high school 69, so, 67, 68. I don't remember exactly what year the Woolly Bully was. It only lasted maybe a year, but it was a lot of fun to come. They cut off, you had to be under 21 to go. It was kind of like, they used to have roost dances at the Kenilworth building,
Okay.
Kenilworth Recreation building, and it was the same type of thing. You could start going when you were in 7th grade, and you could go all the way through high school till you were 18 or 19. So this was the same sort of thing, but the age limit went up a little bit, and it was called the Woolly Bully. And they'd have live bands, some local, some
Yeah.
they would bring in. And it was just a fun place to go. And like I say, your parents knew you were safe. They always had, there was always a police presence. Even at the roost dances, there was 1 or 2 officers, same ones that came all the time. So you got to know them and they got to know you, and you felt comfortable going to them if there was anything. They did the same thing at the dance club. So it was really fun.
Now, see, that was your teenage years. And in my teenage years, we had arcades, video games, because that was all the rage. They had Pac-Man and Donkey Kong. And the exhibit hall was, I believe it was called Dodge City Amusement, and it was an arcade. And so my cousins that lived here in Petaluma and their friends, and when my sister and I were in town visiting, which we would do just by riding our bikes from Rohnert Park into Petaluma during the summer, we would all walk over from Grandma's house during the day when it was so hot and we needed a break from swimming. And we'd come over and we'd play arcade games for hours. And, we were allowed to come without our parents. So we got that social time, just hanging out, doing something we enjoyed. And, then we'd have the fair and we'd come back and we'd just walk from Grandma's house and come over to the fair all day and hang out for those 5 days. But that's what was going on when I was a teenager in the early to mid 80s.
I'm wondering if the arcade room was the same as the roller skating
Yes.
area.
Yes.
It was the same. So you've
Same.
seen some transition of the fairgrounds, especially
it
with
was-
there's no restaurant on site anymore, and there was previously.
Yeah. When my husband and I were dating, we would come and watch his brother and his brother's best friend race at the track.
Okay.
And then here recently, my oldest son was involved with racing here at the Petaluma track. And so we've been a part of that over the years as well, because I know Mom's come over
I've been to the races several times.
to the races.
I just like hearing them. I know. You get a lot of complaints, people saying, oh, there's so much noise. I look forward to Saturday nights and you hear the cars, doing the time trials during the day, and then all of a sudden you hear the races at night. And I'll just go out in the backyard and listen to them.
Oh,
To the races.
just the other night,
Yeah.
I was out in the backyard doing weeds, and we're cleaning up the backyard to revamp it. So I'm out there pulling weeds, and all of a sudden I could hear the races start, and I went, "Oh, race is starting!" And so we all recognize it, and for us, it's a joy.
It's joy.
Even if we don't make it over to see the race, we still hear it, and you can hear all of a sudden it'll go quiet. And if it doesn't start up right away, something's happened. And if it starts up again right away, they were just switching races.